Ernest Goes to Jail has Felix Nash trick Ernest into taking his place in jail so that Felix can rob the bank that Ernest works at. So, the positives on this movie are small negative. I actually really like the Doin' Time song in the beginning of the movie to start the movie off. It's really fun. Well, it's a little dark with some imagery and with some lyrics, but like it's actually catchy and it's a little unique in the Ernest franchise to have like an original song. So I actually really like that. Ernest's movie job, I will say, is actually one of the best jobs in the Ernest franchise. It's implemented into the plot well. He's a bank janitor. So he's supposed to clean the bank, but of course he messes up a lot of the times. And when Felix Nash gets switched with Ernest, him and one of his buddies in jail, make a little plan of so Ernest is on jury, and then they bring the jury to the jail to look at the crime scene that Ruben caused in the jail. So Felix says Psst, you, come here. And his other buddy, Lyle, knocks him out, and they switch. Felix and him switch places. And so when Nash gets out of the courtroom and gets out of the prison, he takes Ernest's job as a bank janitor, and he makes a plan of robbing the bank. So I actually really liked that. So Ernest's job is actually really good. Speaking of Mr. Nash, I think he's actually a really interesting villain. So he's played by Jim Varney, who also plays Ernest, and it showcases Jim Varney's talent of playing a little bit darker characters, playing a little more serious characters. So I really like that. You still get the goofy shticks with Ernest, but him playing Mr. Nash was actually really interesting. And I don't think Mr. Nash, if he was played by anybody else, would be nearly as interesting. And plus, that is kind of worked into the plot of the only point that this works is because Nash looks identical to Ernest. So that was actually a really interesting piece of the movie that Jim Varney plays the villain in this movie, and he does a really good job. The movie is very funny. I love it when Bobby shoots the gingerbread man when it pops out of the toaster. The gag when Ernest is in the courtroom and he breaks his pen and the ink is just in his pen. The ink from the pen is in his mouth and he has to try and wipe it off, but it's just smearing all over his face. That was always funny. When Ernest gets tricked to getting behind a dumpster to see Nash because it looks like him, he just says, "Am I me?" That was pretty funny. It's also funny when Ernest is in jail and he says hey, this guy's a prisoner, and to a guard, and he just says, "No, look at him," and he just slams his head in the bars. That was really funny because he really could have ruined himself from that point on. He could have really just gotten the chair right then and there. So I think the movie is actually really funny. And the final positive is Ernest and Mr. Nash's final battle in the bank is really entertaining. So they fight each other. Ernest gets electrocuted and starts flying around the bank. So that's really funny. And Mr. Nash continuously hits Ernest. He hits him like a punching clown, just hits him, but then Ernest just comes right back up. That was really funny. He slams him to the ground like a basketball and then just makes him go flying up in the air. Ernest eventually gets one over on Nash and traps him with one of the washers. and drops a lamp on him. He eventually takes the bomb out of the building, and then when Mr. Nash has the gun to everyone, he drops on Mr. Nash, and Mr. Nash gets captured. So the final 10 minutes is really entertaining to watch. So that's it for positives. On to the negatives, and they're pretty small. In the beginning, when the washer cord is stuck on the door, Ernest is trying to hit the switch, but like he can't reach it. I think he should have just gotten up or he scooched so that he could quickly turn it off. That didn't make sense. That he didn't really try to turn it off. Small negative. Really doesn't affect the movie that much. Another thing is there's a gun in one of the desks, and the security for it is they hit the desk, and then they have easy access to the gun. So, and Mr. Nash in the third act uses the gun, gets that gun, and uses it. So I think there should have been a little more security to that gun, because like, what if someone was just at that desk, like a customer was angry at something, like, what, you lost my money, and he slams the desk, and then the gun pops out. So I wish the gun was like in a safe, and then Mr. Nash knows the combination so we can get the gun. I think that would have worked a little bit better. Another negative is they could have utilized the electric cage a little bit more. They just use it to electrocute Ernest so that he can start flying. And they could have used the plastic wall a little better somehow in the finale, but they really don't use that because Bobby shows the bank president these two things, but like they don't really add anything to the movie, so they really could have been cut out. And the final negative, more of like, I kind of wish what this movie really was is, yeah, I almost wish this movie was like a parody of a prison movie, where it's just more like Ernest is just trying to survive jail, I guess. I wish it was like a parody of a Prison Break movie. And they do have some jokes in the Doing Time song of like, he has the file, the cake in the file thing, and then he uses it to scrape his fingernails. So like, that's funny, but like, that's not in the movie. There are a few of those in the song that's like, that could have been funny in the movie. So if they really made like a prison parody film, that actually would have been pretty fun. But for what it is, it's actually fine. So in the end, Ernest Goes to Jail, I actually really like it. It's a very fun movie, and it is one of my favorite Ernest movies. Thanks for watching.